Well, Ian, they are very hopeful that it will improve their quality of life, plus their property values, which, based on what I was told by a property flipper, continue to climb here.
Custom cabinets, all the way to the ceiling.
Rob Malcolm is showing off his latest Norwood restoration project. When they bought this 1910 home, it was in shambles. Now look at it. In fact, Malcolm and his wife have been flipping houses here for the last 6+ years.
The last house that we've flipped over here, we bought for $100,000 and we sold it for $470,000.
Much of the community's draw is the convenience to downtown and venues like the new Protective Stadium. Now news that a $50 million amphitheater could be built 5 minutes from his front door.
I'm very excited about it for the main reason that it just brings more people to the neighborhood. Even if it's just somebody coming to a concert that comes through and goes, oh wow, look at this beautiful historic neighborhood.
The amphitheater would actually sit in the Druid Hills neighborhood, where Ricky Gaucher bought a home just 2 months ago, and new entertainment venues only validate their reason for relocating.
That will bring a lot of property value to your home. Also will bring a lot of people's inner outer city to Birmingham for its revenue.
Malcolm predicts projects like the possible amphitheater will only lure more investors like himself to this nook of North Birmingham.
If people come in with a vision of community and neighborhood over profits, then it can really turn into a beautiful neighborhood.
And help transform history one home at a time. Now, all this talk about a high-end amphitheater is very preliminary at this point. Funding for the project must still clear or survive about votes from 5 different funding partners, the first of which is the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Its board meets on Monday. Live in Birmingham, John Papke, WVTM 13.
We have learned about new charges for a Bessemer man in connection to a shootout with Hoover Police. Evan Lucas has been charged with 5 counts of attempted murder. He's accused of sparking a road rage incident that led to an officer being shot on Sunday. Tonight he's in the Jefferson County Jail on a $2.5 million bond. A man in Blount County was arrested on charges of sexual misconduct with a child. Kenneth Daniels is currently in the Blount County Jail and a bond has not been set.
The Alabama Board of Medical Examiners filed a petition to suspend the license of a Trussville doctor arrested on charges of human trafficking. Dr. Janaki Irla was arrested last week after investigators say he attempted to have relations with one of his patients who's a minor. The Medical Licensure Commission is set to have an emergency session and make the decision whether to revoke his medical practice license. Executive Director William Perkins said it's a necessary move to ensure the safety of patients. If your child is one of the thousands diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, there's a good chance they were prescribed Adderall to treat the symptoms. You may have already felt the effects of the Adderall shortage that we're experiencing right now. WVTM 13's Lisa Crane is live in Jefferson County tonight. And Lisa, what caused this shortage?
Well, according to the FDA, one of the major makers of Adderall, a drug company called Teva, is experiencing manufacturing delays, and there is just not enough of a supply from the other producers to actually keep up with the demand. Now, Adderall is one of the most commonly prescribed drugs to treat ADHD in children and adults, and many parents have gone to the pharmacy recently to pick up their child's prescription only to be told it's just not available. I spoke with a Birmingham pediatrician today who says there are other options, but no guarantee those other drugs will be as beneficial to every patient.
There's no inherent risk of switching from one class to another. Some people feel like they respond better to one than another, and so if Adderall was their first choice, their first line drug, then switching to another one, most of the time they're going to respond just as well. But finding out would be through switching.
Now, Dr. Hale says it's important to talk to your doctor if you're not able to find Adderall, and make sure you consult with them before you use any other drug to treat ADHD. Live in Jefferson County, Lisa Crane, WVTM 13.
Well, a winter weather outlook has been released, and you may want to break out the flip-flops. So because of the La Nina weather coming in this winter for the 3rd year in a row, many in the southern half of the country may expect warmer, drier winters. It doesn't spell out some of the greatest news for us as we continue dealing with drought conditions. The weather pattern only expected to make things worse.
We tend to have drier than normal conditions along the southern tier of the U.S., and so that's why drought expansion is predicted.
La Nina is also expected to go up and down, which can make those patterns even more difficult to predict. All right, so the warmer days are scheduled to start back up over the next couple of days.
And Jason Simpson joining us now with a breakdown of just how much warmer the temperatures will get.
Well, today we made it to the 60s. Looks like over the weekend we'll be back into the mid and upper 70s for highs by Saturday and Sunday. Morning lows still in cool territory, down in the 40s early Saturday morning, not quite as cold Sunday morning. And then as we get a little bit warmer Saturday afternoon, that warm up continues into Sunday as well. And the overall picture is one of very nice but very dry weather for the next several days. So it's warming. We still have cool mornings, lots of sunshine in the picture, but there is a chance at least of some rain coming in next week. Right now it's in the 50s in Birmingham, Gadsden, Anniston, Coleman 55, Alabaster, Tuscaloosa in the 60s, Utah sitting right on 60 degrees. Here's how the next 12 hours will work out, and check out that south wind. That'll make a difference, helping to keep the temperatures a little bit warmer tonight than they were last night. Maybe 39 is not exactly warmer, but it's not quite as cold overall. So still chilly in the morning at the bus stop, but a really nice Friday afternoon on the way. We'll talk in more detail about how things are going to be changing over the next 7 days and when you could expect that chance of some showers into next week, coming up in our 7-day forecast.
All right, Jason, see you in just a bit. Well, Governor Ivey announced a series of grants aimed at improving access to healthy foods. 13 grants were given out under the state's Healthy Food Financing Program. This allows places like food banks to supply fresh and healthy foods right to residents. In all, about $400,000 in grants has been awarded. And the director of the Alabama Department of Economic and Community Affairs, Kenneth Boswell, said, quote, "Community providers of healthy foods are often on shoestring budgets and need help in meeting the demand of other areas," adding, quote, "The program helps provide these resources that they need."
Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett blocked attempts to halt the student loan forgiveness program. A Wisconsin taxpayer group filed an emergency application to prevent the program from going forward. The justice has not provided any other comment. In the meantime, the Biden administration has officially launched the student loan forgiveness application. That application was given a soft launch last week for beta testing. And the applications will be among the first to be processed for relief. Officials say that it should take about 5 minutes to complete. As a reminder, here's the breakdown on student loan forgiveness. Applications are live from now until the end of the year. Individuals making less than $125,000, married couples making less than $250,000 will automatically qualify. You'll get $10,000 knocked off your debt, but if you have a Pell Grant, that number is doubled. To learn more, you can visit studentaid.gov/debt-relief.
A new plan from the Social Security Administration will allow you to self-select your gender identity. The agency's Equity Action Plan is part of the Biden administration's work to increase gender identity acceptance. They seek to decrease burdens for people who identify as trans or gender diverse. They will accept an applicant's self-identified gender regardless of the status on other formal documents, and future policies are expected for those who identify as non-binary. UK Prime Minister Liz Truss will resign after what some call a disastrous 6-week tenure in office. Scott McLean is in London and explains the events that led up to that decision.
Well, Liz Truss will be Britain's shortest serving prime minister in history, and it seems like her term in number 10 Downing Street was doomed to fail from the beginning, ever since she announced a series of economic measures that in the midst of a cost of living crisis gave tax breaks to corporations and some of the wealthiest people in this country. That did not go down well with MPs, the markets, or the British public, and it seemed like no matter how much Liz Truss tried to scrape and claw her way out of the hole that she had dug for herself, she just could not get out. She tried reversing part of the policy, she tried hiring a new chancellor and firing her old one, and she tried eventually rolling back almost everything in that policy, but it seemed like nothing would work. And so Liz Truss read the political tea leaves and realized that even if she could manage to survive her leadership challenge from within her own party, it would be very difficult to govern given her party's deep unpopularity and the deep unpopularity of those policies as well. The opposition Labour Party is calling for a general election to be called, given that they say that the Conservatives no longer have a mandate to govern. The Conservatives will be choosing a new leader, they say, by the end of next week. Scott McLean, CNN, London.
And President Biden commented on her resignation, saying the British government will be able to figure it out.
Look, she was a good partner on Russia and Ukraine, and the British are going to solve their problems. But she was a good partner.
Now, several people already rumored to be in the running for a replacement, including